Michael, great to be with you here at
Yeah,
Brand Innovators.
yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So, to start us off, we'd love to hear a bit about your role at Coca-Cola and how you think about brand marketing today.
Yeah, of course. So I lead the portfolio of sports drinks under the Body Armor brand. I basically develop the annual brand plans and identify, areas of opportunity for growth through innovation, through packaging, and through partnerships.
Great. So, let's start with how consumers are evolving. So, beverage has changed a lot over the last few years. From your perspective, what are the biggest shifts you're seeing in how consumers think about what they drink?
Yeah, major shifts in the last few years, right? I think first is, the expectations of what a beverage should be now from consumers, especially with everything happening in the macroeconomic environment. Basically consumers want more function out of their drinks. Shift, back a few years ago, it was all around better for you, and now that's to a certain degree table stakes. So they're expecting more function. So that's probably the first trend. The second trend I'd say is just, consumption of media and how consumers are learning about brands. So that's through their media consumption, how they're shopping for their products both online and in store.
Right, makes sense. And those shifts in behavior are also reshaping how brands connect with consumers, especially in a world where media looks so different than the way it used to. So, when you talk about media today, it's obviously different now. So, how does the content itself change by channel? For example, what works on TV versus what works on organic social?
Yeah, totally. I think there's again, there's an expectation from consumers of essentially how produced or not produced and organic or authentic a piece of content is, depending on the channel that it lands in. And then also as a marketer, as we think, full funnel essentially of, telling the brand story as well as like driving conversion, that all has implications in terms of the content we create and the channel at which it runs in.
Right. And beyond media and content, partnerships, we were talking before, have become another major way brands show up. So, for a brand in the active lifestyle, sports, health, and wellness space, what types of partners are becoming more valuable to you right now?
Yeah, totally. And again, I think it depends on, the consumer that you're going after. For a while, your traditional, A-list athletes, teams, and sponsorships, they even today play a major role for us. But we're also thinking about partnerships a little bit differently. Not only, the content creator economy essentially, but also someone that's in the middle ground. For us, some major partners that you might have heard of, Dude Perfect, Savannah Bananas, and Barstool. They're not a traditional creator, nor are they a traditional media channel, and they've actually played a significant role in our growth to date.
Right, right. And one of the most interesting, being gaming in digital environments, when we were talking about, there's a big difference between putting an ad inside of a game and actually becoming part of the game experience. How should brands approach that?
I think there's a role to play for your more traditional advertisements that show up, supered on a video game experience. But what we're starting to find is in-game organic integration actually plays a significant role, especially with the gaming community, the younger community. They want the brand to show up in a natural way of how they would normally consume it, but in these virtual worlds, if you will. And we've actually seen the data that actually plays a pretty significant role in, driving brand health metrics like affinity and awareness.
Right. And being in the physical world, we're here at Brand Innovators. So, as you engage with other marketers at events like Brand Innovators, what are you most interested in learning from other marketers right now?
Sure. Yeah, no, to my earlier point, I would love to further understand the role of in-game integration as it relates to gaming. When you think of a sports drink, it's not necessarily intuitive to think about gaming. It's an adjacent category, if you will. So I'm trying to learn more about the gaming experience and how brands are showing up in a way that's actually, moving the needle for them.
Right. And for companies in sports, health, and wellness, what strategies are worth paying closer attention to?
Sure. So I think partnership marketing is massive for our categories, and it's what I alluded to before. It's not necessarily just your traditional partnerships with an athlete or a team, and it's not just creators. It's what's in between. How do you? Someone else had said it. I love the idea of how do you zig when everyone else zags. So how can you identify those partners that will help as they grow, bring you along for the ride as well.
Right. So, to zoom out and look ahead, what do you think the biggest change in marketing will be over the next few years?
I think there's going to be a continuous shift from, traditional media channels, television and so on and so forth to more digital channels. I mean, that's not a surprise to anybody. And then, as I mentioned before, I think identifying unique partners especially as it relates to AI and AI, brand visibility. Who are those partners both on their online channels and then in person that actually helps drive your brand when people are searching for across the internet?
And lastly, if you had to give one piece of advice to marketers trying to stay ahead, what would it be?
Just be curious. You don't necessarily have to implement a new strategy. You don't have to take on a new vendor, but talk to different people, attend conferences, attend trade shows, see what's going on, especially in the digital ecosystem. Play around with stuff, become familiar with it, because like it or not, it's going to be here before we know it.
Awesome. Well, Michael, really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. Appreciate you sharing your perspective. Have a good
Cool.
rest of your show.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.